Welcome back to the channel, Rare Coins History, Coin Collectors and Treasure Seekers. Today's video is going to take a deep dive into one of the most overlooked coins in American currency, the humble dime. That's right, just 10 cents. But not just any dime, we're exploring the fascinating story behind the 1985 Roosevelt silver dime with a mint mark. And if you stick with us until the end, you'll hear about one extremely rare example that was once valued at an eye-watering price most people wouldn't believe. Now, at first glance, a 1985 dime might not grab your attention. It's small, light, and something most of us barely notice when we get it back as change. But this little coin has some hidden surprises. In fact, it has caught the attention of serious collectors and investors who know that sometimes, the most valuable things in life are also the easiest to overlook. Let's rewind a bit and talk about where this dime comes from. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, just months after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. He had led the country through the Great Depression and World War II and was admired by millions. To honor him, the U.S. Mint decided to replace the Mercury dime with a new design featuring his profile on the obverse. This was not only a tribute to Roosevelt but also a nod to his efforts in founding the March of Dimes campaign to fight polio. Since then, the Roosevelt dime has remained relatively unchanged in its design. But what has changed over the years is its composition. Originally, dimes were struck from 90% silver, just like quarters and half dollars. But due to rising silver prices, that changed in 1965. From that point forward, dimes were made from a clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel. So, when we talk about silver dimes after 1965, they're not supposed to exist, at least, not officially. But here's where the 1985 dime becomes interesting. Every year, the U.S. Mint produces billions of coins across its various locations. The 1985 Roosevelt dimes were minted in three main places: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You can spot the mint mark just above the date, P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, and S for San Francisco. Most of the coins produced that year were your standard copper-nickel clad dimes. But in rare cases, strange things happen at the mint. There have been verified reports of error coins being struck on the wrong planchets. That means a few 1985 dimes were mistakenly minted on silver blanks, possibly leftover silver planchets from years before, or blanks intended for proof coins. These dimes look nearly identical to the regular ones but are composed of 90% silver, making them highly desirable among collectors. To the naked eye, a silver 1985 dime might not stand out much. But there are a few key ways to spot one. First, the weight. A clad dime weighs about 2.27 grams, while a silver dime weighs approximately 2.5 grams. It might seem like a tiny difference, but for a collector, that little bit of extra weight could mean everything. Next is the color. Silver dimes tend to have a brighter, shinier appearance, and if you look at the edge, you won't see the copper stripe that's visible on clad dimes. These small visual cues could help you identify a rare coin hiding in your pocket. And of course, let's not forget about errors. 1985 Roosevelt dimes are known to exist with all kinds of minting mistakes, off-center strikes, missing clad layers, die breaks, and even double dies. These types of errors make any coin more valuable, but when combined with the rarity of a silver planchet, you have something truly exceptional. Now imagine this: you're going through your coin jar one day, sorting your change like usual. You pick up a 1985 dime and notice that it looks just a bit different. Maybe it feels heavier. Maybe it looks shinier. You decide to check the weight, and it comes in at 2.5 grams. You check the edge, no copper stripe. You bring it to a coin dealer or send it to a grading service, and they confirm it's a silver dime. Not just rare, extremely rare. Most people wouldn't think twice about a 10-cent coin. But for collectors, this is a dream find. And in the right condition, especially if it's uncirculated or shows a unique minting error, this little dime becomes more than just a piece of currency. It becomes a treasure. There are a limited number of these dimes confirmed to exist, which only adds to the value. Scarcity drives demand, and collectors from around the world are always ready to pay a premium for pieces that are one-of-a-kind or nearly impossible to find. So now, the moment you've been waiting for. A rare 1985 Roosevelt silver dime, struck with a mint mark and confirmed to be an off-metal error in flawless condition, was once valued and sold for an astonishing $85,000. That's right, $85,000 for a single dime. A coin worth 10 cents in the eyes of most, but worth a small fortune to someone who knew what to look for. So here's the takeaway: never underestimate your pocket change. Every coin has a story, and some have the potential to become life-changing discoveries. Check your coins. Weigh them. Examine them. Because you never know when your next dime might be worth more than some people's entire salary. Today, we're focusing on one of the most overlooked coins in U.S. currency, the Roosevelt Dime. Small, shiny, and often forgotten at the bottom of pockets and coin jars. But we're not talking about just any dime. We're zeroing in on the 1980 Roosevelt Dime with a mint mark, a coin that may look ordinary but could be worth a life-changing amount of money if you've got the right one. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, "It's just a dime," let me tell you something. The world of coin collecting is full of surprises, and this tiny 10-cent coin is proof that treasure doesn't always come in treasure chests. Sometimes, it jingles in your change. Let's begin with a bit of background. The Roosevelt Dime was first issued in 1946, following the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. His image was placed on the dime not only as a tribute to his leadership during World War II but also because of his dedication to the fight against polio through the March of Dimes. Since its release, the Roosevelt Dime has been produced continuously and has gone through a few key changes, but the basic design has remained the same. By 1980, the dime had already been made from a copper-nickel-clad composition for 15 years. That change occurred in 1965, when rising silver prices forced the U.S. Mint to stop using silver in everyday coins. So technically, by 1980, no dimes should contain any silver. But here's the twist: some might. You see, mistakes happen. And when they happen at the U.S. Mint, they can turn a simple coin into something extraordinarily rare. In some cases, leftover silver planchets, metal blanks meant for earlier coins, may have accidentally been used to strike new dimes. These accidental silver dimes are known as off-metal errors. And they are some of the most prized pieces in all of coin collecting. So how do you know if your 1980 dime is one of these rare silver errors? It all starts with weight. A standard copper-nickel-clad dime weighs about 2.27 grams. A silver dime, however, weighs slightly more, about 2.5 grams. That may not sound like much of a difference, but for a trained eye, or a digital scale, it's a clue that something special might be going on. Another way to spot a silver dime is by looking at its edge. Regular dimes show a copper-colored stripe around the edge. But if your dime is solid silver all the way through, the edge will appear completely silver. It's a simple test that could reveal a coin worth far more than 10 cents. Now, let's talk mint marks. In 1980, dimes were minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You'll find the mint mark just above the date on the obverse side of the coin. A D means it was struck in Denver, an S indicates a San Francisco proof coin, and a P or no mark usually means Philadelphia. The presence of a mint mark becomes especially important when identifying certain errors or rare varieties tied to specific mints. What makes the 1980 Roosevelt dime even more fascinating is that this year saw a relatively high number of coins being produced, and with large production runs come greater chances for errors. Some dimes from 1980 have been found with die cracks, off-center strikes, double dies, and most importantly, incorrect metal compositions. These aren't just fun little flaws. They're features that make a coin unique. And collectors are constantly searching for these rare versions. The more dramatic and rare the error, the higher the price collectors are willing to pay. Combine that with a pristine condition, known in the coin world as mint state, and you've got the kind of coin that can fetch jaw-dropping figures at auction. There's also the mystery factor. Unlike some years where mint records are crystal clear, 1980 still has unanswered questions. Could there have been leftover silver planchets used by mistake? Could a proof coin somehow have slipped into general circulation? Could your everyday change be harboring a lost piece of history? These are the questions that make coin hunting so exciting. It's not just about collecting, it's about discovering. About paying attention to the tiny details and realizing that sometimes the smallest things can be the most valuable. So here's the moment you've been waiting for. You might be thinking, okay, this is interesting, but how much could a little dime like this actually be worth? Well, get ready to be amazed. Point 1. Extremely rare 1980 Roosevelt Dime, struck on a silver planchet, carrying a mint mark, and preserved in flawless mint state condition, has been valued at an incredible $95,000. Yes, you heard that right. $95,000. For a single 10-cent coin. This is why it's so important to check your change, dig through those old jars, and examine every coin you come across. Because one small detail could be the difference between 10 cents and tens of thousands of dollars. If you found this video eye-opening, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on future episodes. We've got more amazing coin stories coming your way, some of which might help you find your very own hidden treasure. Today, we're about to explore one of the most fascinating coins that may be hiding right in your change drawer. We're talking about the Roosevelt Dime, but not just any dime. This episode is all about the 1974 Roosevelt silver dime with a mint mark. And trust me, this isn't your average 10-cent piece. Stick around until the very end, because you won't believe how much this little silver coin is actually worth to collectors. Spoiler alert, it's a jaw-dropper. Let's get into it. Now, most people pass by dimes without giving them a second thought. They're tiny, lightweight, and let's be honest, a lot of us wouldn't even bother bending over to pick one up off the sidewalk. But if you knew that one dime, just one, could be worth tens of thousands of dollars, you might think again. The Roosevelt dime has a long and proud history. It was first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had passed away the year before. Roosevelt was a beloved figure and a champion in the fight against polio, which led to the creation of the March of Dimes campaign. So it made sense that his image would appear on this 10-cent coin. Now, if you've ever looked at a Roosevelt dime, you'll know the design hasn't changed much over the years. The obverse side features Roosevelt's profile, and the reverse shows a torch flanked by olive and oak branches, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. But as any collector knows, it's not always about the design. Sometimes, it's all about what you can't see at first glance. By the time 1974 rolled around, the U.S. Mint had long since stopped producing dimes made of 90% silver. That shift happened in 1965, due to the rising price of silver. From then on, dimes were made from a copper-nickel clad composition. So technically speaking, any dime made in or after 1965 should not contain silver, but as with many things in life, there were exceptions. Sometimes, silver planchets, those blank coin discs that are stamped into finished coins, get mixed into the wrong batch. It's rare, it's unexpected, and it's completely unintentional. But it happens. And when it does, the result is a coin that was never supposed to exist, a modern dime accidentally made of silver. That brings us to the 1974 Roosevelt dime. While most people think this year's dimes are nothing special, a few extremely rare specimens have been discovered that were struck on leftover silver planchets. These coins somehow made it through the minting process, escaped detection, and ended up in circulation. They look almost identical to regular dimes, but their weight, sound, and composition tell a different story. So how do you spot one of these mysterious silver dimes from 1974? First, look at the edge of the coin. Normal copper-nickel clad dimes have a distinct two-tone edge, with a copper stripe running through it. But silver dimes? They're solid in color. That stripe is missing. Second, weigh the coin. A standard clad dime weighs around 2.27 grams, while a 90% silver dime weighs about 2.5 grams. That small difference could be your biggest clue. Third, look for the mint mark, just above the date. In 1974, dimes were minted in Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S. Each mint produced millions of coins, but the rare silver errors can show up from any of them. The S mint mark is especially worth watching for, since San Francisco produced both circulation and proof coins. Now let's talk about errors and collector appeal. Some 1974 dimes have additional quirks that make them even more valuable. Off-center strikes, double dies, weak strikes, or even coins struck on incorrect planchets, all of these factors can multiply a coin's value dramatically. Combine that with a silver planchet and a mint mark, and you've got something that serious collectors dream about. Imagine going through your spare change and finding a coin that feels just a little different. Maybe it's shinier. Maybe it's heavier. You decide to test it, do some research, and suddenly you realize you're holding something rare. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about money, it's about discovery, history, and the thrill of the hunt. Now here's where things really heat up. A few years ago, a 1974 Roosevelt dime with a mint mark, struck on a silver planchet and preserved in mint condition, was discovered and authenticated by experts. It wasn't flashy. It didn't look wildly different. But it was real. And its rarity sent collectors into a frenzy, and now, the moment you've been waiting for, that rare 1974 Roosevelt silver dime with a mint mark, confirmed to be struck on a silver planchet in near-perfect condition, was valued and sold for an unbelievable $95,000. Yes, you heard that right, $95,000. For a single dime. That's why you never underestimate the coins you carry every day. Because buried in your change could be a piece of U.S. minting history, an error, a survivor, a hidden gem worth more than your car, your rent, or even a year's salary. So take a moment, go through your coin jars, your old collections, or that little cup holder in your car. Because you just never know. Today, we're diving deep into an extraordinary story about a coin you might never expect to be valuable, the 2000 Roosevelt silver dime with a mint mark. At first glance, it looks like just another dime, but trust me, this little piece of metal carries a secret that could make it worth a fortune. Most people think of Roosevelt dimes as everyday coins, passing from hand to hand, pocket to pocket, barely noticed. But if you're a collector or just someone curious about hidden treasures, the 2000 Roosevelt silver dime might be exactly what you want to hear about. It's not just a dime, it's a rare minting anomaly wrapped in history and mystery. Let's rewind a bit. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946, honoring Franklin D. Roosevelt's legacy, especially his efforts fighting polio through the March of Dimes. Since then, the coin's design has remained remarkably consistent. Roosevelt's profile on the front, a torch with olive and oak branches on the back, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. However, one crucial change happened in 1965. Rising silver prices forced the U.S. Mint to stop using silver in most circulating coins, including dimes. From that point forward, Roosevelt dimes were minted using copper-nickel clad composition, no silver content, just an outer layer of copper-nickel around a copper core. So, how does the year 2000 fit into this? By then, the silver era was long gone, and every dime in circulation was supposed to be made from copper-nickel. But sometimes, the minting process isn't perfect. Occasionally, leftover silver planchets from earlier production run cycles or collector proof sets mistakenly enter circulation. These are known as off-metal errors, and they're the stuff of coin collector dreams. Now imagine this, a 2000 Roosevelt dime, struck not on the standard copper-nickel planchet, but on a 90% silver planchet. Why is this such a big deal? First, because silver dimes from after 1964 shouldn't exist in circulation. Second, because they are incredibly rare. Third, because the silver content alone gives these coins an intrinsic value far above their face value. If you're lucky enough to find one of these silver 2000 dimes, there are a few things you can look for. Check the coin's weight. A typical copper-nickel dime weighs about 2.27 grams, while a 90% silver dime weighs roughly 2.5 grams. That small difference can mean everything. Also, examine the edge. Silver dimes have a solid silver edge, whereas copper-nickel coins have a distinct copper stripe visible on the edge. The mint mark is another important detail. In 2000, dimes were minted in Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S. The mint mark appears just above the date on the obverse side. Some mint locations are more prone to minting errors due to differences in production runs or equipment, making the mint mark a key factor when determining rarity. What about condition? Like most collectibles, condition is king. The closer your coin is to uncirculated mint state, with no scratches, nicks, or discoloration, the more valuable it becomes. Even small imperfections can dramatically affect the coin's price, so collectors prize flawless specimens. Now, in addition to being a silver strike error, some of these dimes also come with unique characteristics: slight die cracks, double dies, or off-center strikes. These quirks add layers to the coin's story and further boost its collectible value. So what's the catch? Well, these coins are exceedingly rare. Few have been confirmed to exist, and even fewer have made it into collectors' hands in pristine condition. When one of these coins does surface, it causes a sensation in the numismatic community. Collectors and investors are willing to pay top dollar for a verified 2000 Roosevelt silver dime with a mint mark in mint condition. And that brings us to the most exciting part, the value. If you happen to find such a coin, you could be looking at a price tag that's downright astonishing. One authentic, verified 2000 Roosevelt silver dime with a mint mark in near-perfect condition has been valued at an eye-popping $75,000. That's right, $75,000 for a single dime that many might have tossed aside as just another piece of change. So next time you reach into your pocket or sort through your coin jars, take a closer look at those Roosevelt dimes. You might just be holding a piece of history worth a small fortune. Today, we're uncovering the secrets behind one of the most fascinating and rare coins you might not have expected, the 1991 Roosevelt silver dime with a mint mark. It's a coin that looks ordinary, but in reality, it holds a world of mystery, history, and incredible value. If you think dimes are just pocket change, think again, because this tiny piece of metal could be worth a fortune. The Roosevelt dime, a staple of American currency since 1946, has a story rooted in respect and remembrance. Designed to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the dime symbolizes his fight against polio and the March of Dimes Foundation, which has done so much good. Its design, featuring Roosevelt's profile on the front and a torch with olive and oak branches on the back, has been cherished for decades. But what makes the 1991 dime so special? You see, starting in 1965, the U.S. Mint stopped making dimes out of 90% silver because the price of silver was rising too fast. From that point forward, dimes were made of a copper-nickel-clad composition. That means the vast majority of dimes produced after 1964 contain no silver at all, but every so often, errors happen. Sometimes, silver planchets, blank discs meant for earlier coins, slip into the production line by accident. These off-metal errors produce coins that are nearly identical to regular ones but have silver content where there shouldn't be any. And that's exactly where the magic begins. Imagine holding a 1991 Roosevelt dime that looks just like all the others but is actually struck on a 90% silver planchet. These coins are incredibly rare and have become the holy grail for collectors. They offer a unique glimpse into minting mistakes and are prized for their composition as much as their rarity. How do you tell if you might be holding one of these? First, the weight. A normal copper-nickel dime weighs about 2.27 grams, but a silver dime weighs closer to 2.5 grams. This difference may seem small, but it's critical in identifying a silver error coin. Then there's the edge. Unlike clad dimes that have a visible copper stripe running through the edge, silver dimes have a uniform edge color all around. Mint marks are another key detail to watch for. In 1991, dimes were minted in Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S. Some of these rare silver dimes with mint marks came from specific mints, making them even more desirable, but rarity and metal content aren't the only factors. The coin's condition plays a huge role in value. Coins that have been kept in pristine, uncirculated condition, without scratches or wear, can fetch exponentially higher prices. Those perfect specimens become the centerpiece of any collection. Some of these rare 1991 silver Roosevelt dimes also exhibit additional minting quirks, off-center strikes, die cracks, or doubling effects, that further enhance their collectible appeal. because these coins are so rare. When one appears on the market in mint condition, it triggers a wave of excitement among numismatists. Auctions can become intense, and prices can skyrocket. Now, here's the moment you've been waiting for. This rare 1991 Roosevelt silver dime with a mint mark, verified as authentic and preserved in outstanding condition, has been valued at an astonishing $98,000. Yes, you heard that right. $98,000 for a single dime. So next time you're sorting through your loose change or exploring your coin collection, remember this story. That dime you thought was ordinary could very well be an extraordinary piece of history, worth far more than you ever imagined. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare coins and want more stories about hidden treasures in everyday change, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting out there.